Hello and welcome to my daughter's in the advanced biology class. So today we want to look at an overview of photosynthesis. 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 What do we know about photosynthesis? Well, probably not nearly as much as there is to know, but we are, by the way, following the open source text book out of, I think is it Rice University, uh, edited by Clark, Choi, and Douglas. Okay, so we're in chapter 8, I believe it is. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. I remember photosynthesis from biology vaguely. I know very little, but I remember that photosynthesis is the process whereby the sun on plants generates energy that I can eat in my salad. Um, I can't generate energy from the sun because I'm not a plant, but photosynthesis can. Photosynthesis is the process that captures energy from sunlight and converts it into chemicals. And these are the chemicals that I eat, and they power me as an organism. I am an organism. And so photosynthesis captures the energy from the sunlight in leaves, it converts it to chemicals. And those chemicals are like basically carbohydrates waiting to be exploited by my body, or if I sit on my couch long enough, to become fat. Belly fat, I mean. Anyway, maybe not fat, but I'll get fat off of it. Okay, so let me just quick reminder of what is a carbohydrate. Sugars. Sugars are carbohydrates. Carbohydrates basically are this formula. N means that I can multiply this, many times. So like I think glucose is C6H12O6. The proportions are the same. One carbon for every oxygen and two hydrogens for every carbon, and a chicken in every pot. But so basically, this in photosynthesis, the sun upon leaves generates chemicals, which carbohydrates that provide energy for our bodies. Now, I can't do it. You can't do it. If you're understanding this video at all, you can't do it. Now, maybe you have a plant in your room and the plant is pretending to listen. The plant can do it. I can't do it. Your dog can't do it. The rest of us can't do it. What is this? I think this is a what is it? Well, plants can do it. Algae can do it, like in the ocean, the green stuff, and these things which are cyanobacteria. Okay, so these are little one-celled bacteria with the green stuff. Cyanobacteria are little, one-celled organisms that can actually make energy out of sunlight. By the way, the current going theory is that the chloroplasts in plants originated as cyanobacteria that kind of got captured by a cell and began generating energy for the cell at some point. Well, okay, that's the theory. So these little one-celled cyanobacteria became the chloroplast as evolution took place. That's what I've heard anyway. So these things that can do it are called photoautotrophs. So if you think of a trough as you think of an auto as something that runs by itself, it's automatic. So an auto eat photo. So these can eat light on their own. They don't. I'm not an autotroph. I'm a heterotroph. I eat different things. But anyway, these auto autotrophs can eat sunlight on their own and generate energy. And so the rest of us, okay, if your brain is full, don't just go on to the next, fast forward, close your ears, la 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 la. But there are a few places around volcanoes, chemoautotrophs, that can generate energy from chemicals. These are maybe where some of the very early organisms, before there was chlorophyll, before there were cyanobacteria, there were chemoautotrophs who could eat on their own from chemicals. But I don't know that you need to know that, so just ignore that. Okay, So what's the process? These are 3 deer that hang out behind the building where I work. I scare them every morning, and I scare them tonight. I like scaring them. Actually, I don't like scaring them. I'm their friend. Why do they run? Anyway, that's not important right now. I need to name them. So it starts by a sun shining on a leaf. Nice sunshine on a leaf. By the way, there are little mouths on the bottom of the leaf called stoma. Anyway, never mind. Okay. So the energy from the sun is stored in carbon-carbon bonds of carbohydrates. And so these kind of sugars in the making, that's where the energy is stored. Because when a carbon-carbon bond, when it breaks, you get energy. And so it connects, and then when it breaks, you got energy. So deer, thus the picture, the deer eat the vegetation that is storing the leaf, and then we eat the deer, although I prefer cow. Actually, I was invited over to someone's house Sunday for dinner, and they fed me venison, which I ate, thankfully, but I prefer cow. Okay, so this is the process, right? The sun shines on the leaf, the deer eats the leaf, I eat the deer, and we're all, happy. Okay, so here's the formula. The formula, can I move that out of the way? I don't know. How does that work on the recording? Somebody tell me. Okay, so the formula looks simple enough. You get a little carbon dioxide, add water, sunlight, and then you get the sugar, the carbohydrate, and oxygen. Looks like a nice little process, doesn't it? Now, so we get the CO2 from the air. That's a sub 2, by the way. And then you need some water in the plant, comes up from the ground usually. And then you add a little sunlight, and the energy is stored as sugar, and oxygen is a byproduct. So this is what I do remember this from middle school, I think, probably, maybe 8th grade or 9th grade. I took biology in the 9th grade, I think. But anyway, if you were on a spaceship, you'd want some plants, right? Maybe, because when I take in oxygen, I need oxygen, right? I need oxygen. And oxygen goes in and blah, 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 blah. And then when I breathe out, what do I breathe out? I breathe out CO2. And so this is the whole idea of global warming, is that we've got too much CO2 in the atmosphere. That's why you plant trees, because the plants take the CO2. See, we have a nice little relationship going. I need oxygen. The plants give off oxygen. I breathe in the oxygen. I breathe out CO2. The CO2 goes into the air, and then it helps create oxygen, and round we go. So I breathe out CO2, the plant takes it in, the plant gives off oxygen, I breathe it in, and we're all one big happy ecosystem. Okay, so where does it all happen? It happens in a chloroplast, which is green, like life. And so, okay, there's an outer membrane, there's an inner membrane, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so look at these. I was trying to think. These reminded me of old computer disks, but I'm old. Nobody remembers that. And so let's go with cake, because we all know cake, right? It's a multi-layer cake. And so this multi-layer cake is called a granum. It's a granny cake. So this is a chlorophyll. I'm sorry, a chloroplast. Why did I put chlorophyll there? Chlorophyll is the chemical that makes it happen. Okay, let me try that again. I'm going to call it chlorophyll icing. The membranes of these things have chlorophyll in them, and the chlorophyll is the thing that actually makes the sunlight into chemicals. So these are granny cakes. Um, I, I, I'm a minister. I know it's hard to believe, but anyway, when I was learning about, visiting people in their homes, like an older couple or older woman, there's a story here. Somebody was telling me about uh, visiting an older woman as a pastor who, let's just say she didn't. Okay, I'm not going there. Granny cakes, don't eat them. Okay, just don't eat them. So the cakes are called granny cakes, and each layer is called a thylakoid. That's the name of the granny, thylakoid. I'd like to introduce you to thylakoid. Anyway, so the layers, each layer is a thylakoid. And inside is light. Lumen means light. Ah, so the light, the sunlight goes through the uh, the outer part of these thylakoids through the chlorophyll, and there's light inside the thylakoid. Okay, so the cakes are called granums. The layers are thylakoids, and then inside is the light. And so the cake base here, it sits on something called a stroma, which is kind of liquidy. So stroma is like the cake, the thing you have the cake on. It's the stroma. And I don't know how to remember that. Stroma. It's on the stroma. Sitting on the stroma. I don't know. Come up with something. Stop this tape and come up with something for stroma. So we've got granny cakes by thylakoid, and inside is the light, and the icing is chlorophyll with two L's. I misspelled it, but thankfully Microsoft Word told me, or Microsoft PowerPoint told me it was misspelled. Okay, the two stages of photosynthesis is the light dependent and the light independent reaction, which makes sense, right? First, stage one, get the light in. Stage two, do something with what resulted. Now, the rest of the chapter is going to unfold this, so don't feel like you have to understand everything about the light dependent and light independent reactions. So the light dependent reactions, again, depend on the light. Ha! And so, the individual thylakoid membrane, these are, again, granny cake, right? Granum. And then each one of these is thylakoid. There are 7 women here named thylakoid. Anyway, so thylakoid is a layer, and you need some water. You need some water, and oxygen's going to come out. Outer membrane, inner membrane, yeah. Okay, so basically the light through the chlorophyll into the lumen makes adenosine triphosphate and NADPH. Surely you don't have to know what it is. I wrote it down. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. N, nicotinamide. A, adenine. D, dinucleotide. pH, phosphate. Both of these basically are chemicals that store energy. They're like energy batteries, okay? And again, water comes in and oxygen goes out. This is the light-dependent side of photosynthesis. So the light-independent reaction is the other side. This is called the Calvin cycle, after John Calvin, the theologian, who was full of hot air. No, I'm just kidding. Never mind. So this happens in the stroma, which remember is the cake base. The stroma is the stroller. It's in a stroller. It's in a stromer. I don't know. So in the stroma is where the Calvin cycle takes place. And basically you take the ADP and the NADPH, and CO2 comes in and it produces gay 3P. Georgia 3P? Gay 3P? Gasp. It produced the gasp. Anyway, CO2 comes in, and then gasp comes out, which stands for glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, which means the phosphate's on the third. But anyway, on the third. So anyway, take 2 of these, and it makes a glucose, I think. So basically, it makes a sugar if you kind of pair these up. So this is the energy that helps people like me live, and deer and other things like that, and that's the process. So here's the whole thing. This side is the light dependent side. This side is the light independent side. The light comes into the granum, the granny cake, into the thylakoid, and through the chlorophyll in the membrane and into the lumen in the middle, light. Add a little water, oxygen comes out, and it produces adenosine triphosphate and nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Did I get it right? I will not remember that in 2 seconds. It produces this, which provides energy that if you add CO2, then reduces this gas, which is something like glyceraldehyde phosphate, 3-phosphate, glyceraldehyde phosphate or something, which becomes a carbohydrate, becomes a sugar. And so having done that, having sucked some stuff off, it goes back with adenosine diphosphate, so it's broken off a phosphate for energy. Maybe that's it. And then I don't know what pi is, 3.141592655353. Anyway, and then NADP with its lost one of its electrons. Anyway, and then it all happens again. More on this to come, I'm sure, but I've done my best to give an overview of photosynthesis.